Thank you very much, Lilian, and thank you for having us here on this event. We were here last year as well, but it's very nice to be coming back. So I will be talking today about the University of Twente. In Holland, we have our own language, Dutch, and I can imagine certain things are a little bit difficult to pronounce. But in the end, we are talking about studying in Holland, or the Netherlands, as it is formally called. So in this presentation, I will talk about studying in the Netherlands, why the University of Twente, master programs, what kind of help you get after admission, and how to stay in contact with us. I have been told I have about 15 minutes, so I will try to keep a close watch on the time. So the first subject is studying in the Netherlands. Studying in the Netherlands. So Holland is, of course, in the European mainland, and we are traders from origin. So you can see that in many ways, but we used to also go with our ships across the world to trade. But if you look at Holland and the country in itself and what it is famous for, it is, in the first pictures you see windmills, and the windmills were used in our country to fight against the water. So our country is called the Netherlands, Países Bajos. A big part of our country is below sea level. Always been, let's say, very busy to get the water up to the right level and also to win back land from, for instance, the sea. Next pictures you see is cheeses. We are relatively famous for our cheeses. We also have a lot of cows in Holland, and we mainly use those to make our Dutch cheese. Most famous one, I think, is Gouda. Then you see flowers. We export flowers all over the world. The tulip is the most famous one. And this is also something that we are relatively famous for. In spring, there is a very nice garden in the west of Holland where you can see an enormous amount of flowers and in all different kinds of sculptures, etc. And the last thing you see here is a picture of the University of Twente, and you see some bikes there. Our country is completely flat. We have always been battling against water because we are a completely flat country. And because of it, it is very easy to use bikes. And this is how the whole world in Holland is going from one place to another, especially within cities. And that's also the case in the University of Twente. So using your bike is very handy. You buy it once, and apart from that, you don't have costs anymore. And you can easily go on a bike up to 20 kilometers, which is about 1 hour. All right, the Netherlands, gateway to Europe, we say. Amsterdam has a very famous airport. It is called Schiphol. From there, you can fly really to all over Europe, and for relatively low prices as well. The United Kingdom is easy to go to by a plane, but also by train nowadays. And what is nice within Europe is that you can travel by train to places like Paris and London. It is just a very convenient place to travel from. So the Dutch people, like I said, traders from origin, we are very international. We are the #1 in the world for English proficiency. So we are not talking about the English-speaking countries, of course, but countries where English is not the language of the people themselves. We are #1 in the world. And you will see that when you study with us, that you will be able to get along with English very well. And within the university, everything is English, of course. Quality of education, we have very high quality of education. So all our universities are within the top 200 of the world, and University of Twente is that as well. They're about 150. So high quality of education for a relatively lower price than in many other countries. High living standards. Holland is a relatively rich country with an excellent infrastructure and safety network. Dutch facts. We are the tallest people in the world. We are very independent, and we are high ranked in gender issues. We respect privacy. We are very punctual. So this is very important when you go and study in Holland, is that when you make an appointment at 3 o'clock, you have to be there at 3 o'clock. And when you say, yes, I'm going to do something, you have to do it. We are, when it comes to that, not so much polite, but very direct. So when we say that we're going to do something, we will do it. And if we don't feel like it or we cannot, we will immediately say it, and not out of politeness say something else. It's very important when you go study in a different culture that you learn a little bit about how that culture is different. So as it says here, we are very straightforward. We love our coffee, and we are one of the healthiest countries in the world for diet, and cycling is very safe. In general, Holland is a very safe country. So this is a big difference with many countries in Latin America. Also for ladies, it is no problem to cycle home at 3 o'clock in the morning. Nothing will happen to you. Then why the University of Twente? So Twente is engaged in groundbreaking research. This is really true. This is a university that has very close contact with companies. So they are really in the middle of society. They call themselves high-tech human touch because it is for humans that is the most important thing. They want to have a profound societal impact, and they construct multidisciplinary answers to grand challenges into tomorrow's world. So the basis of this university is science and engineering. No, it is a technical university. There are 3 technical universities in Holland, and Twente is one of them. However, they have very close relationships with other subject areas, like, for instance, business. Business is one of the biggest areas that they work very closely together with science and engineering, and another one is health. What University of Twente does, they want to empower students to make their own choices. So being independent, think for yourself, make your own choices, something that is considered very important in Dutch education. So you're not so much repeat what the teacher said, but you learn how to implement the theory and to have an opinion about that theory. Important to be always open and approachable. They encourage students to explore new things. They offer a sense of community, which is also seen in the many societies that they have and in the way they work together with you as a student. And they provide room to make mistakes. There is no problem to make a mistake. Never cover it up, always be honest about it. And this is something that you learn from most. That is the idea in general in Holland. So facts and figures from last year: 189 in the QS ranking, 153 in another ranking. They are the most entrepreneurial university in the Netherlands. This means that they work closely together with businesses, and they have the highest percentage and the highest amount of spin-off companies within Dutch universities. They are very much student-driven, and they don't want to get too big. Big universities in Holland, the bigger ones, go up to 30,000. The University of Twente doesn't want to go any bigger than 12, 13,000 students. They want to remain relatively small and keep their specialism. International students is almost 30%. You see here bachelor students 6,600 and master students 4,300. So most of these international students are master students. Let's be clear on that. When you go to the master area, it is very well possible that in your class 50% of the students is international from other countries. They have 58 societies. So here you just see a quick overview. This presentation I have received from the university. Here you see a big overview of all the programs that they have. I can imagine it is rather small for you, but the main thing is that you see here the 5 faculties. So it is very interesting to know that these faculties also have their own way of funding students. They have good scholarship possibilities. And I have been able to send several students also from Peru to the University of Twente with scholarships, and some of them even with a full scholarship. So who am I? Just to be clear on that, my name is Jack. I work in Mexico for Innova Education, and I directly work for the university to help Latin American students to go and study there. I'm in the same time zone. I am Dutch, of course, and I simply work for the university. They pay for the work that we as Innova do to get you there and study your degree. So for today, I am completely focused on master students, but of course, it's also possible to do a bachelor. When you look at the master program structure, there are 2 types, 1-year master and 2-year master. So 1-year master is very often business, and the 2-year master science and engineering. This means that most of the masters at the University of Twente are for 2 years. So if you have a 1-year master, you have 60 credits in the full year. And it is split in 3 trimesters. In the first one, you have compulsory courses. Then you have the elective ones that go into your specialization. When you choose a master, very often within the master, you can choose specialization. And then within that first year, the last trimester, you do a final project. If you have a 2-year master, You start with half the year of compulsory courses. Then you have your specialization, elective courses. And then very important, the second year is much more practical. And you do first an internship, normally completely everything together with a company and also having to do with research. And then you do your final project. This is how the 1 and 2 year masters are made together. So what kind of choices do you need to make for your master? You need to choose a program, a specialization, your electives. You need to find an internship position. The university helps you with that. And you need to find also together with the university and your academics an interesting master thesis to do. Requirements to study at the University of Twente. You need to be a proactive person. You need to be willing to discuss and communicate within a group, and you need to be able to plan your course and also to plan everything that you're going to do during your internship and your master's thesis. So there is a lot of help with that. So on one hand, the university wants you to be very independent, and on the other hand, they really help you with that. So how do they help you? You have several people who you can turn to. The initiative is for you, but you can turn to them to help you during your master's. First, you have a program mentor. Then you have an internship coordinator. You have a thesis supervisor. And also you have a study counselor and advisor. And that last one is more for personal and confidential things. So, but during your study and the phases of your master, you have always supervisors and people who will help you. Admissions requirements to do a master. You need to have done a 4-year bachelor degree minimal with a final cumulative grade point average of at least 14 out of 20, 70%. Specific requirements may apply to individual programs. So it is important to realize that certain programs, they might ask for a little bit of a higher grade point average. You need to speak English well and understand English well. They test that by asking you for an IELTS 6.5 at the moment that you apply, or a TOEFL internet-based IBT of 90, or a Cambridge KC. Here you see a little bit of the fees. So when it comes to the fees, we have February intake and September intake. I suggest you forget a little bit about the February intake because that is the fee for a little bit over half a year. The most important thing is September intake because that shows you the fees for a full academic year. So for 1 year program, the fee for next year is 14,000 euros. And for a 2-year program, which is the science and engineering programs, more laboratory based, it is 16,750. The application deadline is the 1st of May, but I am sure that many of you will want to apply for a scholarship. And if you want to apply for a scholarship, be aware that the applications open at the 1st of October, and that my advice immediately is to apply before mid-December. That means also have your English certificate before mid-December. Why is that? And that is the next slide. That is because of the scholarship. You see here the University of Twente scholarships, they vary from 3,000 to 22,000. As I said, this past years, I have been able to send several Peruvians with a full scholarship. However, relatively important to apply on time. The first round is the 1st of February, and it is best to be in the first round, and you need to have been admitted into the program by then. Therefore, it is good and advisable to apply before mid-December. That gives the university 4 to 6 weeks, and then the Christmas period is in there. And then you have your answer before the 1st of February. And that is what it's all about when it comes to applying for a scholarship, that your application is as good as it can be. So everything in there. Okay, I see that I'm on 15 minutes, so I am rounding up, Lillian. After admission, there is service for international students when it comes to housing, insurance, introduction days. You can also learn Dutch. And here you see a little bit about the living costs per year. I always say it is good to have about 1,000 euros per month for living costs. Over here, it says 10,800. But to have a little bit more is just nice to be also be able to do a little bit more social things. The University of Twente is very student driven. There's a lot of initiatives. There's a lot of student societies. So if you are, for instance, in the mechanical engineering department, you can already guess what kind of student society you see here in the first picture. And there is also really a lot to do around languages and other social things. Here in the bottom, you see the kick-in. This means that at the beginning of the course, you have a week in which they show you everything about the university and your program, opening a bank account, etc. Stay in contact. You can do that with us through social media. So you see here the University of Twente. You can find them on Facebook as such. Email directly to the University of Twente. That is via study@universityoftwente.nl. And if you would like to be in contact with me to help you in the process, you can do that via holland@innovaeducation.com. And we will be very happy to help you in the process. We work with, just so you are aware, we work with 3 Mexican study advisors here who are helping a lot of students from Latin America, also from Peru. And of course, they speak Spanish perfectly, which is something that I am still struggling with a little bit. All right, until so far my presentation, Liliana, over back to you.